All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. This is our regular monthly meeting, and as is our custom at this time, I'd like to introduce Officer New. Officer New is with the Cobb County Police Department. He's here today to represent all our first responders with the county, and if we'd all please rise, he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, this is our monthly meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. And those of you that are here for the first time, let me give you a little insight on how we're going to conduct the meeting today. The first thing that we'll concern ourselves with is the consent agenda. These are applications that not only this board has reviewed, but our professional and our engineering staff has reviewed. To our knowledge, there's no known opposition to any of these cases. So we'll proceed with Mr. Peterson, our head zoning administrator. He will read these into the record, and as he does, the applicant, he or she, will identify themselves by raising their hand. And likewise, if there's anybody here in opposition to any of these particular cases, if they also would identify themselves by raising their hand, and if there is any opposition, we will pull that particular case and hear it in its regular numeric order. The next course of business would be our continued cases. These are cases that were continued from last month. We'll hear those next. Then we'll get into our regular agenda. And again, the procedure will remain the same. Mr. Peterson will read these into the record. Again, the applicant will identify themselves. Likewise, the opposition will identify themselves. Anybody that's going to give testimony before this board today, our officer of the day is Ms. Kim Wakefield. Kim will call you forward. You'll come forward. You'll be sworn in, and all testimony will be given from the podium to my right. At that time, the applicant will have a 10-minute period to make his presentation to this board, and likewise and collectively, those in opposition will have a 10-minute period to make their opposition known to this board. Let me caution you in the fact that if you have more than one speaker, you only have a 10-minute period. There is no rebuttal on any of these cases, so when you're up here, you're using your 10-minute period, tell us everything you want to know during that period of time. Once we complete the regular agenda, we have a couple of other business things to consider, and that should conclude our business for the day. Now, with that said, I'm going to ask Mr. Peterson if he has any special announcements. John?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. There are a number of things I need to announce before we start the hearing. First, we got a request for an early head count for variance case V82, East Lake Residential LLC. Can I get a show by hand of people here who are opposed to variance case V82?
All right, just hold up. Kim, if you would get ahead, keep your hands up high how we can see them. V82.
Let the record show there are 4 people here in opposition to variance case V82.
Okay, that was our held case or continued case? John?
That was a held case, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
There's one case on today's agenda in which the representative is asking it to be withdrawn. Can the representative come forward for variance case V107, David Pearson?
All right, sir, for the purpose of the record, if you would, please give us your name.
Sure. My name is Kevin Moore, and on behalf of the applicant, we would request, or are requesting, that the application be withdrawn without prejudice. There's some issues that have come up and certain information has come to light recently, and we're going to take the opportunity to have some additional discussions and further discussions and a lot more detailed discussions with some of the neighbors. And it just would be better after those discussions, if there's still a variance request that needs to be made, one can be made then when there's a much more and much larger consensus regarding a variance application. And so at this time, it's just not ready, and there's no reason to delay it or ask for a continuance, and it's a much better position just to be withdrawn without prejudice and go from there, if the board would allow for that.
All right, that's case V107, and that is represented by District 2. Commissioner Swanson is the district commissioner. Ms. Swanson?
I'd like to make a motion that we allow V107 to be removed without prejudice, withdrawn without prejudice.
Withdrawn without prejudice. All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Williams. Any other comments? Not hearing or seeing any? I call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Madam Secretary, we're going to allow case V107 to be withdrawn without prejudice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Peterson, what's next?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. There are two cases on today's agenda which have been continued and will not be heard today. First case is variance case V92, Kenneth Hester. That case has been continued and will not be heard until the November 12th variance hearing. Additionally, variance case V95, Christy B. Crutcher. The case has been continued by the staff and will not be heard today. That case will be heard on November 12th, 2014. I would like to ask the people in today's audience to please turn your cell phones off if you have a cell phone. They do interfere with the broadcast and presentation, so if you have a cell phone, please turn it off. The following announcement concerns variance applications requesting a reduction in lot size for backyard chickens relating to the official code of Cobb County, Chapter 134, adopted by the Board of Commissioners on February 26, 2013, and amended on March 11, 2014. Applicants are advised that variance applications requesting a reduction in lot size, which are approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals, takes the form of a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, who makes the final determination whether to grant a special exception for the requested lot size reduction. There's one case on today's agenda which this applies, and that's a variance case V84, Carol Smith. The applicant and/or representatives are instructed that if the Board of Zoning Appeals approves this application, a representative would need to be present at the Board of Commissioners zoning hearing on Tuesday, November 18, 2014, at 9 o'clock for a final determination. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda.
Let's jump right in, John. Let's go.
Yes, sir. And before we start the consent agenda, there is one case, Mr. Chairman and Board, that has been pulled off consent. Variance case V101, PNC Bank. That's the one on East Piedmont Road that has been pulled off consent and will be heard in the regular agenda.
Okay, that's good.
Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for October 1st, 2014. Variance case V83, Carl and Kathy Shepard. Request a variance to waive the side setback from required 10 feet to 6.9 feet, adjacent to the west property line in land lot 305 of the 20th District. The property is located on the northwest corner of Pritchett Drive and Pritchett Lane. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to only for the encroachment shown on the site plan received July 14th, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V83? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V85, Herbert L. Lyle requests a variance to allow a fence to the front of or to the side of the house in a residential district to exceed 6 feet in height, and the fence is 8 feet, and to waive the side setback for an accessory structure under 144 square feet for a approximately 100 square foot shed from required 5 feet to 0 feet in land lot 555 of the 16th District. The property is located on the north side of Salem Drive, west of Calico Court. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V85? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V87, Stephen J. Urchter requests a variance to waive the rear setback from required 35 feet to 10.4 feet in land lot 1048 of the 16th District. The property is located at the northwest intersection of Indian Hills Parkway and Summit Drive. Staff recommends approval, subject to the encroachment shown on the site plan dated April 26, 1985, and subject to the architectural renderings contained in the variance file for the first floor layout received by the Zoning Division on August 11, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V87? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And I apologize to the applicant for how I pronounced his name if it was wrong. Variance case V88, Douglas Wilbur requests a variance to allow an accessory structure, an approximately 1,584 square foot barn to be located in the front of the principal building on existing lots 1 and 2. Waive the side setback for an accessory structure for an approximately 1,584 square foot barn from required 100 feet to 41.9 feet adjacent to the southern property line on lots 1 and 2. Waive the front setback for an accessory structure, approximately 1,600 square foot, one-story frame structure from required 50 feet to 13 feet adjacent to the western property line on lot 4. Waive the rear setback for an accessory structure, approximately 1,600 square foot, one-story frame structure from required 100 feet to 39.8 feet adjacent to the eastern property line on lot 4. And to waive the rear setback for an accessory structure for a 360 square foot shed from required 40 feet to 22.4 feet adjacent to the eastern property line and 14.2 feet adjacent to the southern property line on lot 4 in land lots 183 and 184 of the 20th District. The property is located on the east side of Ackworth Due West Road, across from Old Stylesboro Road. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to site plan review comments, and this variance supersedes all previous variances. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V88? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V89, Polo Tropical requests a variance to waive the landscape enhancement strip adjacent to the public street from required 8 feet to 2 feet along Johnson Ferry Road, and to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 70% to 86% in land lot 85 of the 1st District. The property is located on the east side of Johnson Ferry Road, south of Lower Roswell Road. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to the landscape plan dated September 12, 2014. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V89? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V90, John Wayne Thomason Jr. requests a variance to waive the front setback from required 35 feet to 34 feet adjacent to the northern property line. Waive the rear setback from required 35 feet to 11 feet adjacent to the southern property line, and to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 35% to 43.55% in land lot 140 of the 16th District. The property is located at the southeast corner of Shallowford Road and Bells Ferry Road. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to pervious pavers and/or pervious concrete to be approved by Stormwater Management. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V90? Is no one opposed? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V91, Julie's Plaza LLC, requests a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 70% to 95%, to waive the side setback from required 15 feet to 12 feet adjacent to the southern property line, reduce the depth of a 90-degree parking stall from required 19 feet to 18 feet, with the increase in the width from required 8.5 feet to 9 feet, to waive the setback for a sign from required 52 feet from the center line of a major collector road right-of-way to 30 feet, and to increase the maximum allowable impervious sign, the maximum allowable sign area from 120 square feet to 128 square feet in land lot 902 of the 16th District. The property is located on the east side of East Cobb Drive, north of Johnson Ferry Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the site plan revised September 18th, 2014, and 86.7% impervious surface maximum. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V91? Let the record show there's no one opposed. David Kemp and Chad Russell request a variance to waive the front setback from required 35 feet to 33 feet, waive the maximum allowable impervious surface from 35% to 39.99%, and to waive the minimum lot size from required 20,000 square feet to 18,476 square feet in land lot 835 of the 17th District. The property is located on the east side of Paradise Shawls Road, south of Heavenly Trail. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to the site plan received August 12, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V93? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V94, Aqua Design Pools and Spas LLC request a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 35% to 38% in land lot 484 of the 16th District. The property is located on the south side of Bryant Point Drive, west of Bryant Lane. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to Stormwater Management Division comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V94? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V96, Timothy W. Matthews requests a variance to waive the side setback from required 10 feet to 5 feet adjacent to the western property line, to waive the setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 216 square foot shed from required 35 feet to 18.1 feet adjacent to the northern property line, and from 10 feet to 7.9 feet adjacent to the east property line in land lot 968 of the 16th District. The property is located on the north side of Clubland Court, north of Clubland Drive. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to Stormwater Management Division comments, and the site plan received August 14th, 2014, for the shown encroachments only. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V96? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V97, Larry Cawthorn requests a variance to waive the rear setback from required 35 feet to 29.7 feet in land lot 453 of the 16th District. The property is located at the northern terminus of Bryant Place Court, west of Bryant Lane, and the southern terminus of Coral Drive. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to site plan review comments, and only for the encroachment shown on the site plan received August 13th, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V97? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V98, Crory Engineering LLC requests a variance to allow an accessory structure, an approximately 1,720 square foot proposed garage to the front of the primary structure, and to allow an accessory structure, approximately 400 square foot existing one-story stucco building to the front of the primary structure in land lots 956, 957, 970, and 971 of the 17th District. The property is located on the south side of Woodland Brook Drive, north of Farmington Drive. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to stormwater management comments, and only for the encroachment shown on the site plan received August 13th, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V98? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V99, Adolfo Diaz requests a variance to waive the setbacks from the required 20 feet to 19.5 feet from the front property line, and from 20 feet to 9.5 feet from the major side property line, and from 30 feet to 28 feet adjacent to the north property line. In land lot 868 of the 17th District, the property is located at the northeast corner of Black Bear Drive and Hawk Court. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to stormwater management comments, and only for the encroachment shown on the site plan received August 13th, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V99? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V100, PNC Bank requests a variance to allow an accessory structure for a proposed ATM machine to be located to the side in front of the principal building, to waive the front setback for the proposed ATM from required 50 feet to 30 feet, and to waive the setbacks from required 50 feet on the front to 38 feet, and from required 30 feet in the rear to 10 feet, in land lot 1060 of the 16th District. The property is located on the east side of Roswell Road, south of Robinson Road. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to the encroachment shown on the site plan received August 25th, 2014 only. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V100? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V102, David W. Scott requests a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 45% to 51.6% in land lot 746 of the 17th District. The property is located on the south side of Murrin Drive, west of Bass Circle. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to the encroachment shown on the site plan received August 14th, 2014 only, and the letter from Dexon Moore received August 14th, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V102? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V104, Alba Alicia Perez requests a variance to waive the setbacks from required 35 feet from the front property line to 33 feet, and from required 35 feet from the rear property line to 1.7 feet in land lot 300 of the 18th district. The property is located on the south side of Britt Road, west of Factory Shaw's Road. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to applicant apply for building permits for any improvements, and only for the encroachment shown on the site plan received August 14, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V104? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V107, CIS Marriott LLC requests a variance to waive the maximum height of a freestanding sign from 35 feet to 54 feet, increase the maximum allowable sign area from 120 square feet to 132 square feet, and to allow a pole sign when the original and final grade has a topographic difference of 10 feet below road grade in land lot 851 of the 17th district. The property is located on the east side of Corporate Plaza, south of Windy Hill Road. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to the site plan dated August 13th, 2011, and the sign rendering contained in the variance analysis. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V106? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V108, John Robert Clark requests a variance to waive the rear setback from required 30 feet to 14 feet, allow an accessory structure, proposed 140 square foot existing shed to be to the side of the primary structure, and to waive the setbacks for an accessory structure for an approximately 140 square foot existing shed from 5 feet to 1 foot from the eastern property line, and from required 30 feet to 14 feet from the rear property line. In land lot 936 of the 17th district, the property is located at the southern terminus of Della Street and south of Taylor Road. Staff recommends approval of the variance, subject to the site plan received September 19th, 2014. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V108? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Peterson did an excellent job. That was a whole bunch of folks on the consent agenda. Now it's back to this board for discussion, and is there any comments from fellow board members? Mr. Poteet. David, tell us what you want to talk about.
For expediency, Mr. Braden, if you could come on up and be ready, I have one thing real quick with you. Mr. Peterson, on V85, I'd like to add the language, the variance is only for the portion on the applicant's property, on the fence portion of that variance. So the variance is only for the portion of the fence on the applicant's property.
Okay.
On V90, impervious surface not to exceed 40% after all additions are complete, and no business other than customary home occupation business.
Okay.
And then on V94, Mr. Braden, if you could identify yourself for everybody.
Yes, Dave Braden with the Stormwater Management Division.
We looked at that property and we talked about a dry well. Could you explain the language we need for that? Because since there were several homes that might be part of it, I wasn't sure if they were going to be part of that dry well or not.
This is the case of the corner of Bells Ferry and Chaliford.
No, I'm sorry. This is V94, the one with the pool, where we met with the V94, the one with the pool where the dry well would go in the front
Yeah,
corner of the house.
Bryant Point. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, they just need to provide a dry well in that front left corner of the house to compensate for the additional impervious that they're over.
Okay, could we add that language in there, Mr. Peterson?
I think it's 218 square feet, but it's in my file.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, any other comments from other board members? Hearing and not seeing any other discussion, I'll call for a motion then. Go ahead, David.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as stated and with the additions made.
Okay, I've got a motion for approval. Do I have a second by Ms. Swanson? Any other comments? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Madam Secretary, that carries for approval with all the consent agenda with a 5-0 vote. Now, for those of you that were here on the consent agenda, your business is complete with us for today. Now, you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave. If you leave, please leave quietly, how we can continue our business. Again, thank you for coming, and you're dismissed. If you were on the consent agenda, your business is complete with us for today. As they leave quietly, John, let's go to our first case, which would be our continued case.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Variance case V77, Justin Lane. Request a variance to waive the minimum public road frontage from required 75 feet to 0 feet for proposed track number 2 to allow the lot to access off a private easement and to reduce required lot size off a private easement from 80,000 square feet to 43,500 square feet in land lot 336 of the 20th District. The property is located on the west side of Trail Road, west of Midway Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V77?
All right, hold your hands up how I can get a head count.
Let the record show there are 8 people here in opposition. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in. And before we start this case, Mr. Chairman, I just want to note that the applicant did submit a revised plan September 15th. So variance request number 2 is no longer needed.
Okay? And we have that revised site plan in our books, so we have that.
Yep.
All right, those of you that want to speak either for or against this applicant, if you would all please come forward. Let me get everybody sworn in. Let's get everybody up there. All right, let me just reinforce what I stated earlier. The applicant will have a 10-minute period to make his presentation to this board, and likewise and collectively, the opposition has a 10-minute period. So be cognizant of the fact that you have more than one speaker. There is no rebuttal, so tell us all you want to tell us at this time. Sir, if you would, for the purpose of the record, give me your name, please.
Justin Lane.
All right, Justin, tell us what you want.
My name's Justin Lane, and my wife and I own 7.27 acres at 35 Trail Road. Trail Road is a dead-end road about a mile long in West Cobb County. There's 16 driveways on Trail Road, and 4 of these are shared driveways. The lot sizes range from 1.15 acres to 15.3 acres, with all sizes in between. Our driveway is over 500 feet long, and the majority of our property cannot be seen from Trail Road. Our neighbor to the north owns 14 acres, shares a driveway, and subdivided their property to build a second home. The first home was constructed 48 feet from our property line. Our neighbor to the south owns 11 acres and built their home 52 feet away from our property line. Neither neighbor is excited about a second lot in between their homes. It is unfortunate for us that these homes were built so close to our property, and please don't penalize us for it. I'm here today to ask that you waive the required 75-foot for track 2, which is now 2 acres, and allow us access off a private easement. This request will not affect the traffic on Trail Road. It will create additional property taxes for the county if a second home is built, and we're not asking for anything that has not been done on Trail Road. I appreciate your time, respect your decision, and be glad to answer any questions or concerns.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, sir.
Okay, if you would, just please
Thank
have
you.
a seat, and at this time, we will hear from the opposition. Again, let's start off with your name.
Sure. My name is Rick Clow. I live at 25 Trail Road. Justin and I share the border. I'm to the north of his southern border. In addition to my objection, I want to let you know that there's not one of the adjoining property owners that is in agreement with this variance. As to the history of the property, I sent you a letter earlier that you probably already know. This is not the first time. The previous owner, Mr. Lewis, purchased it. It was a 10-acre tract originally, subdivided and the intention of building his own home on the remaining piece of property. Today, we're considering a similar situation, just a smaller piece of land, and we have the same objections. The request today before you is completely out of keeping with the nature and the character of Trail Road. The nature and character of Trail Road is that it is not a subdivision, which is why the majority of the owners of property that are adjacent to this land left subdivisions to build their own home. It appears, unfortunately, that during this month of continuance of the variance, we've had in essence another piece of property subdivided out of it. It's a little over half an acre, but it's over 900 feet from the original tract 2. That's 3 football fields along a road that's only about 23 feet wide, a strip, easement, or driveway, whatever you want to call it, in an attempt to put together an 80,000 square foot piece of land that will meet the zoning requirement. It's challenged at the least to believe that this piece of land, which the purchaser, Mr. Lane, attempts and wants to sell to somebody else, would ever believe that this is really a 2-acre piece of land. With 7 1/4 acres, this request is a matter of convenience and preference for potential future profitable property development, but not one of hardship. Mr. Lane has failed to demonstrate the hardship requirement in section 13494 subclause 3A of the code under which the variance would be granted. There's nothing about this property that is particular or peculiar, exceptional, or extraordinarily different from the adjoining property owners. There's nothing about this property that has changed since Mr. Lane first spoke with Mr. Lewis, who was the previous owner, several years ago about purchasing the property before the bank foreclosed on it. The character and the nature of Trail Road was affirmed by the Cobb County Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners in January of 2006 in unanimous vote by both parties when they approved a revision of the future land use map in regard to the property on Trail Road. And that report stated properties along Trail Road are for the most part large lands with open spaces and forested lands. The proposed land use change from very low density to rural residential will assist in preserving the existing rural character and sustaining the controlled level of growth in the subject area. Finding no hardship, and this proposal being outside the nature and the character of Trail Road, I would ask that you vote to reject the variance. Thank you.
All right, next speaker, please.
My name is Joyce Denny. In 1973, we purchased approximately 15 acres from my sister, Farstine Scoggin, and built our house. After Miss Scoggin passed away, the Lewises purchased the property in front and to the side and rear of our homestead. The Clouds property connected on the other side of the Lewis land. The Dennis and the Lewises agreed for a swap of 1 acre, but it didn't come to fruition. Now the acre in question, which now seems to have grown to 2 acres, is going to be pretty close to the Clouds and the Denny's for a house if it puts directly in between us. We might even have to put up a fence. Please do not allow this to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Teresa Adams, and I live at 40 Trail Road. We're a contiguous landowner. I'm just opposing this variance because it does not fit with the current flume. It doesn't represent the rural character of Trail Road, and I didn't understand that they show a hardship, and I was not asked to sign any variance.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Sandy Clow. I live at 25 Trail Road. We have 11 acres that shares the whole southern boundary of Mr. Lane's property. All of us, I'd like to say again, all of the contiguous neighbors are united in our opposition to this plan that Mr. Lane has in his variance request. It's curious to me that he's even requesting this variance. My understanding that a variance has to be based on a hardship. He has not stated a hardship on his application. He has not spoken of any hardship here today. And he knew what the land was and its requirements and the zoning, surely, when he bought it. So I really would say that buying a property with knowledge that the zoning does not accommodate your plans is not a hardship. The second point I would like to make is the nature and character of Trail Road is bucolic, rural, country, and very beautiful. And all of us who have invested in our homes here and in this land treasure it and would like to keep it this way. It is not a community where someone comes in and builds a house and then subdivides part of their land for profit and to build a spec house. Mr. Lane, I believe, just said that he doesn't want to do anything that hasn't been done before on Trail Road. I submit to you that's my understanding that this has never been done on Trail Road, where someone bought land to build a house and then wanted to subdivide part of it, sell it at a profit, or build a spec house. This has not been done. It's my understanding there's never even been a spec house on Trail Road. So this is really not in the nature of our community. As a homeowner, Mr. Lane has made an excellent choice to live on Trail Road. But as a developer, he has clearly chosen the wrong property. And the third point I would like to make is Mr. Lane left a note in our mailboxes stating that a consent of contiguous homeowners form was required. However, he never approached any of us with this form. In fact, several of us are seeing him here for the very first time today. We have seen, due to our own due diligence, we have seen his new plat that he has proposed. And the only thing I can say is that, to me, it's a mockery of our zoning laws. It's simply a mockery. Mr. Lane, in a conversation with my husband, admitted to him that it's not right to stick this extra house between our house and the Denny's. And I'm here to say that we and all of our neighbors agree with him. It's not right.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And this will be our last speaker.
My name is Frank Denny. I own land adjacent to Mr. Lane. And points have been covered, and I won't go over them again, but the fact that he takes 2 tracts of land that's 900 feet apart to get 2 acres. I doubt seriously if this is what the zoning committee really had in mind when they said a 2-acre tract of land. Another thing is the continuance from last month to this month. It stated that he wanted to trade some land with an adjacent landowner. None of the adjacent landowners has been in any contact with Mr. Lane. Thank you so much.
Okay, we hit it right on the button. Everybody completed their conversation on time.
I was one of the ones originally sworn in.
Quickly, one sentence. I'll allow one sentence.
John Stafford, 39 Trail Road. Mr. Lane is correct that there are shared driveways that do exist on Trail Road. However, in all of those cases, it was a matter of convenience, and each of the houses individually has the required frontage, road frontage to meet that requirement.
You did it. Thank you, sir. All right, I declare the public session over with. It's now back to this board for discussion. I'm going to ask Mr. Hovey, who represents District 1, if he would lead us in that discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, folks. First, Mr. Peterson, have we received for the record any forms of neighbors or others approving this?
I don't believe we have, Commissioner Hovey.
Okay. That's what the gentleman said. I just wanted to get that on the record. And then would you put up that drawing that he just had up, the white piece of paper? The last speaker, the next last speaker made the point here about where this, they need a 2-acre tract and the way they got the 2-acre tract. And Cornelius, would you point down there right underneath revised where it says tract number 2, the square box? Yep, right there. And then you see that small little pathway going to your left? No, up above. There you go, right there. Okay, follow it around the corner, up to the top, and then on up, and then you see that little patch, slide it down so we can see that little patch. That's the revised plan that we got here in the middle of September in order to achieve the 2 acres. I agree with the comment that was made that really wasn't, while it may meet the letter of the law, it sure doesn't meet the intent of the law. The idea of having 2 acres in these kinds of situations where we're going to have multiple houses off shared drives and so on was that the houses would have some air around them and considerable air around them. And so I just can't in my mind accept that that's what the law was meant to mean when we said 2 acres. Now, since he's filed that took away the item number 2 off of his variance request, but I still just don't buy that as a 2-acre tract. If you think about how this would be, you got that one box there in the middle, and then you'd have another box about that same size with 2 houses on it, stuffed between the neighboring houses that everybody's printed out. Mr. Chairman, there is indeed no hardship presented on the application form, and nothing was presented at the hearing here as a hardship, which is, of course, the underpinning of a variance. That there has to be some hardship that the code imposes upon the person. The 2 acres are not contiguous. The opposition made the point about the future land use plan changes that the commissioners made years ago to try and preserve the ultra-rural area out here. The future land use plan was changed bigger to rural residential. And so I think for all those reasons, Mr. Chairman, I'd love to help the gentleman out. He apparently a good builder and does all those kind of things, but in this particular case, I don't think it's in keeping with the situation on this land, and I don't think his hardship is established. And let open for other comments.
All right, it's back to the board for any other comments. Any other comments from board members? Okay, Mr. Hobie, we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny case V number 77.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Swanson. Any other comments for board members? Not hearing any. I call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Madam Secretary, we're going to deny V77 with a 5-0 vote. Mr. Peterson, let's jump right into our next one.
Yes, sir. Variance case V84, Carol Smith. Request a variance for an authorization upon appeal related to the minimum lot size of 2 acres required to maintain poultry as pets or food source, and to allow an accessory structure, an approximately 600 square foot garage to the side of the principal building in land lot 162 of the First District. The property is located on the east side of Little Willie Road across from Odin's Way. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V84? Let the record show there's one person opposed.
Okay.
All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
All right, young lady, if you would, start by giving us your name.
My name is Carol Smith, and my husband, Davis, is going to join me.
You give me your name.
My
Carol-
name is Davis Smith.
I'm sorry.
Davis Smith.
Okay, got to get it both on the record. All right, now, with that said, tell us what you want.
Okay. In 1975, I moved to Cobb County, and in 1978, we purchased a property that had 2 horses and had kind of little farm with a barn in the backyard. And we purposely moved from the subdivision into this new property so that our daughters could have a horse. And that was in 1978. We had the horse and a goat, chickens, and some other animals on the property until about 1980. 86 when my daughters had graduated and gone off to college. I have always owned the property to farm. I have an orchard. That's the way the property always has existed. After I married Mr. Smith, we talked about, well, we love the farm. We'd like to have a couple of chickens. I said, well, I used to have chickens, so I can have chickens on this property. So we didn't really go through the variance process because I had had livestock, horses, goats, other animals on the property. That's the way the property had always been. And in fact, in 1980s, WSB TV came out and did a little picture of my property and used one of my goats to say, what got the goat of Cobb County voters when they didn't vote for some splot things. So it's always been obvious that that's how the land was used. There was never anybody who ever said I couldn't use it that way. And so we went out and we got a small chicken coop and a couple of chickens in the backyard. It's a large lot. It's an acre and over an acre and a quarter. And it's situated such that it's long and narrow and have always gotten along with all of our neighbors. In fact, all of our neighbors used to bring children over to feed the horse and feed the chickens or whatever. And a renter moved in next door to us, and it has not been always, since he moved into that property, a comfortable situation for us. We've never had anything like that before because, as I said, I've lived there since 1978, and it's always been a friendly kind of place. People pick vegetables, fruit off our property, and we know everybody. Anyway, you want us to show some pictures? Are we able to show you some pictures of the property, please?
Well, you got to stand up there.
Oh, you
I
can
know
do it right
can't-
here.
You have to do it all up there.
Okay.
Cornelius, is there any way we can do anything with that?
I do have one.
Anyway, we were very respectful when we put this small little chicken coop in. We had a little umbrella over it so that they stayed cool. I planted flowers all the way around the back side of it and on either side of it. And actually the neighbor, the renter, who apparently is here to dispute our having chickens, his wife and children came over and got eggs, fed the chickens. So I just don't understand where any of this came from because that's not the way it was. We were friendly. In fact, his wife's girlfriend and her kids came over and fed the chickens and picked fruit off our fig tree. So although I realize that one of the debates is that we did not file for variance before we got the 2 chickens, I can tell you that was in total innocence.
All right, why don't we explain what we're seeing now, sir?
What you're seeing is our property.
Right.
You can see how it's landscaped. In a second, this is the front of our property. If you'll scroll on through, those are pictures from the back of our property. Those are the raised beds that we have, and underneath the umbrella, you can see the actual chicken coop that we've kept the chickens in. If you keep scrolling through, we actually have intentions of relocating the coop to the back of our property, and there'll be some pictures there for that in just a second. If you'll go ahead and scroll on through. You can see that we maintain our property very well. We're very proud of it. We have children and grandchildren and friends that we entertain often. And part of our entertainment, frankly, has been that people have liked the girls. Now, as you can see, I don't wear a chicken costume. We don't carry banners. We're not in parades. My wife is the director of oral health for the state of Georgia. I'm a high school teacher. I teach at Walton High School. I'm a recent Teacher of the Year at Walton High School. We're responsible.
Now, stop right there.
citizens.
What am I looking at right there? Just tell me what I'm looking at there.
You are looking at the chicken coop as it's located now. Now, we've taken measures by which we would try to shade or help screen from our neighbors across from us so that they didn't have a full view of the chicken coop.
But this is what they look at
This is what they have
before
seen.
we move it.
All right, let's go to the next one. Let's keep rolling.
Just keep going.
There we go.
Just keep going. There is a runner so that we'll have not only the coop, but they'll be able to stay enclosed throughout the whole time.
All right, just keep going. That's it.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
let's sum up.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to, it presently and has always been about 45 feet from the property line from the neighbor who disputes this. We're willing to move it 150 feet from either property on either side. But I think you already know that everybody else in our neighborhood who is a homeowner on the other side of us, 2 doors down, across the street, down the street, have all signed a petition that they're pro and enjoy coming over to visit the chickens. So we have one renter that's next door that is disputing us having 2 chickens on the property where I've always had, and it is a hardship for me. I have all these raised beds and these gardens, and I would pick things that were wilting and throw them to the chickens, and our grandchildren would go out and pick the eggs and pick the vegetables. And so it's a lifestyle for me. And I intended to retire someday and to be able to continue enjoying my property thus. And I think that living on the property and having it be a property that has been going on since 1978, to have a renter move in and try to change my lifestyle in East Cobb when I've been paying taxes since 1975 in Cobb County, I think is a hardship for me, and it's unfair.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. If you just have a seat, at this time, we'll hear from the opposition.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Steve Levinson, and I am not the adjacent owner. I represent the adjacent landowner. She was not able to be here today. Just for the record, I'd like to let you know that Laura Johnson, who is my actual client, is not a renter. She's a homeowner, and she owns the adjacent property by deed. And she is not a renter. Maybe perhaps the applicants were not aware of that, but that's the true state of facts. The deed is recorded or filed for recording in Cobb County. I've got a copy of the deed if anybody cares to see that. Secondly, this is not it's not a personal issue. These seem like very fine folks. I've never met them. Obviously, they're qualified. They have been living on the property. But one of the issues is that when they bought the property and they had their daughters living there and they had horses and they were farming, as they say, they owned all the property. And they have since subdivided parcels off of this. And the land that my client lives upon, which is next door, is property that was subdivided. In that picture, it will be below, and I'm going to guess it's probably to the south by orientation. So back in the day when the horses were there and other things and the goat and WSB and what have you, the property wasn't 1 1/4 acres, as the applicant stated, but it was probably in excess of 3 acres or thereabouts. So that is something that the board, I believe, that you members need to be aware of in considering this application. I want to address first the building that the applicant seeks. It's not in the variance application itself, it's on the cover sheet. There's no recitation of any hardship, and we would ask that that be denied. They didn't speak to that or address it other than to mention it to you in their brief presentation. So looking at what I have as the second page, or the petition, the page that follows the petition, which is the application for variance for Cobb County, on the first page where it seeks information pursuant to section 134-94 about the hardship, that's blank, and there was nothing spoken about a hardship regarding an out parcel or building of approximately 600 feet. So again, I would ask that that be denied. As far as the chicken issue is concerned, there's a myriad of reasons, and as you folks know, this is kind of a new issue. It's taken a different course in Cobb County since, I think, February of last year. And there have been a couple of petitions that were granted as based on the research or the information that I was able to obtain. But there are some issues with it. It's unsightly. They spoke about moving it, but that's not in the application. There's a noise issue. There's an odor issue. There's a recent increase in coyotes in the area that have been observed by my client. There was a rat as recently as today that died on the property, and the information in the Cobb County or the backyardchickens.org references as rats as a potential side effect or consequence of having chickens. And this is a family with several young children of school age that lives next door, and I don't think it's appropriate for these people to increase the exposure to coyotes or rats in the area where they'd be living next door. The property is downhill, so the homes are kind of at the top of the hill, and everyone looks down over this area that will have that has the chicken coop that wasn't permitted. It's already there, and the chickens are already there. There's absolutely no dispute that the property is very well landscaped. It's possibly the most meticulous property there. That's a benefit. My client has no issue with that. It's the bringing the chickens onto the property that's of concern. And as you heard in the prior application, which was denied, that this is a situation where it looks like economic benefit. It's a little different in that that other party maybe was seeking to get an economic benefit, but in this case, the applicant realized the economic benefit by selling off the adjacent parcels and taking what was permitted by your ordinance and making it a lesser property in terms of being in compliance. In fact, it's way out of compliance by 35, 40%, what have you. Take the money and still want to have the benefit of what they had, and it just isn't fair to the adjoining landowner who objects to this. As I stated, the chickens were already brought to the property. This is not something they're seeking to do. They did it without permission, and now they're kind of trying to get forgiveness. Let's see.
We need to kind of sum up now.
Okay, I will do that. So it will have an impact on the value of the adjacent landowner who is a new owner of that property. It will diminish the value. It will be a continuing nuisance, and I don't think that's what the Cobb County ordinance contemplated when they said that people can come before you all and seek variances for chickens on less than 2 acres. So in that regard, I would ask that the board deny this application, both for the building and to the allowing the chickens in the backyard as currently proposed. Thank you for your time.
Okay. I declare the public session over with. Mr. Levison, would you come back up? I have one quick question for you. Does your client live on that property?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And is not there for investment purposes, as was put in a letter.
So-
That's actually their home.
Their home, they live right there.
Yes, sir, and they were previously a renter under a lease purchase. They have subsequently closed, and that is their home, their
Okay.
family home.
If you would just stay there now.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
declare the public session over with. Now it's back to this board for discussion. The representative of District 3 is Mr. Poteet, so I'm going to ask Mr. Poteet to lead us in that discussion. David?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First of all, so I'm not confused. The owners are the people who live there at this point.
Yes, sir. The deed it's a warranty deed, I believe, and it's the name of Laura Johnson.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Laura Johnson and Nick Johnson live there with their, I believe, 4 children, but could be 5. 4 children.
And how long have they owned that home?
Their purchase is recent. I can't tell you exactly when, but they've been living there under a lease purchase, and they have recently closed and now are the owners of record of the property.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Before he leaves, any other questions for Mr. Levison before he goes? Okay, thank you, sir. Or you can have a seat.
Thank you.
I will say that the coop is on the side of the house, and we have had to talk to them about a plan to move it back to where I would have, I think we'd have much less, if no impact on the property. However, we have a neighbor next door that feels it will. So we've got to look at, can that impact be minimized or completely ended? And so that's the question we have right now. They'd offered to move it, which would be approximately, from what I could see, I thought it was about 180 feet, 160 feet, and screened from the homeowner. If, I don't know about coyotes and rats and stuff, because the children have played there, obviously. So at this point, I'm open, because we did not know they owned the house up until now, or were under a lease purchase. I'm open to other conversation before I make a motion on this. if anybody else has any anything else to add to this.
All right, fellow board members, anybody else want to make any comments or questions on this? David, or John, for the record, do we have any adjoining other property owners that have signed the agreement allowing
Yes,
that?
I believe the property owner to the north and the property owner to the rear have signed the petition.
Okay, so north and the rear. So we do have signatures on file that there is no opposition from those two folks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And as our ordinance indicates, that's one of the things that we look at and go through. Ms. Swanson?
The gentleman that was up doing the presentation in opposition, I think that he was looking at an old ordinance where we allowed chickens on 2 acres or more. Mr. Peterson, can you clear up when the new ordinance was presented?
Well, the ordinance was changed in 2013 to allow property owners to seek an appeal to the 2 acre minimum. So they don't have to put a hardship in relating to backyard chickens. That's just for variances to the code for other things such as setbacks or impervious or things like that. But for this type of appeal, you don't need a hardship. You just need to follow the criteria in the code that relates to backyard chickens.
Great, thank you very much. So it's just for us as a board to look that it follows the criteria that's set forth in this variance.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, David.
No, anybody else? You know, looking at the property and looking at the side, I can see how on the side of the property it would have a major impact on the neighbor. Moving it back toward the woods, I think the 160, 170 feet from the neighbors would not have the impact that it would, considering where it's at now. As far as part 2, I do think there's a hardship that I believe it's the garage there. Is that correct, Mr. Peterson?
That's correct, Commissioner Poteet, and the applicant did not ask for number 2. We added that in there when we saw it
Right.
was to the side of the house on the survey.
That has been there for years and years. I do believe there is a hardship on that one because to try to build it on grade on that slope that goes down from the property line would be harder. So that part I don't have a big concern with.
Well, let me kind of explain that for those of you that don't follow variances on a regular basis. When the applicant comes in to our staff and our staff reviews their application, it's staff's responsibility to make sure that the whole complex is in compliance. So what happened in this case, our staff picked up that the garage was on the side of the house, and we went ahead as staff members, put that into the variance to clean up and to straighten out the whole process. So that is, I commend our staff for doing that, and it cleans up a lot of the legality. If those people wanted to sell that house in future years, then that's already taken care of. So our staff does that as a courtesy to our citizens. So that's how that works out. No, sir, there is no rebuttal on that, and unless one of the commissioners asks you a question, then you can come back up, but at this point, there is no rebuttal. So again, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Poteet.
Again, looking at the property, and we base it on impact on neighbors. In considering that these people are on record, county record, owning the property, we do have to take that in consideration. And we have confirmation, because the last thing I looked on tax records, how do we go about that, Joe?
Poteet, the ownership does not
Makes no
matter.
difference.
It does not matter whether they own the property or not. It's just the
Okay.
impact on the adjoining property.
Okay. I will make a motion that we allow part 2 of the variance, the 600-foot, waive the sides, the side where it can be placed on the side, and that we, considering the opposition, deny part 1 of the variance.
Okay, so we're going to, your motion is to approve the accessory structure, approximately 600 square foot garage to the side of the principal building, and you want to deny number 1 the size, a minimum of 2 acres to maintain poultry as food source.
I feel
Deny
based
that
on the next door and.
All right, I've got a motion for approval and denial.
Mr.
Do I-
Hillman,
Do I have?
we need, if that is the motion, there needs to be something in the motion about a period of time within which code enforcement will forego enforcement.
And remove, give them a period of time to remove the pets. Is that correct, Mr. Atkins?
You need to give some direction in the motion as to how long you're going to allow them to have the poultry until code enforcement will institute enforcement.
The pets aren't on the property at this moment, but I would give them 30 days to make plans to figure out what to do with those pets.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second to that motion? All right, I've got a second by Mr. Hovey. Any other comments from board members? Now, we've got a motion to approve the second one and deny the first one. Mr. Hovey is second that. Any comments from board members before I call for the vote? All right, I've got a motion, got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, Madam Secretary, we approve that 5-0. Let's move on to our next case. 86, I believe it is.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Variance case V86, Robert F. Leach requests a variance to waive the rear setback from required 10 feet to 5 feet and to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 35% to 60% in land lot 1100 of the 17th district. The property is located on the west side of Chattahoochee Way, south of Chattahoochee Plantation Drive. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to this variance? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
All right, sir, if you would, give us your name, please.
Robert Leach.
All right, Mr. Leach, tell us what you want.
Well, what we wanted was the variance that the gentleman over there spoke about. But since then, about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Ms. Swanson, and she suggested I talk to Tim
Davidson.
Tim Davidson.
Yes, sir.
And it has been discovered that the sanitary sewer line is coming either under my house or very close to the left side of my house, or right side if you're in the backyard facing the back of the house. Obviously, it's not within the guidelines of what it should be. Obviously, I didn't know that when I bought it. We are trying or attempting to put a patio, covered patio in the back, and that was the reason for the asking for the variances on the other two items. But since then, we've discovered this sanitation sewer line problem, and I don't know what our options are at this point.
Let me jump in if I can for a second, Kim. We discussed this pretty extensively yesterday. There's a whole lot of problems there, and I guess you've just become aware of them.
Correct.
If Ms. Swanson was kind enough to hold this case for 30 days to give you a little more time, would that be any help to you at all?
Yes, I mean if there is some room to wiggle there, I
don't know if you can get higher engineers and do some more extensive look on there, but there seems to be a whole lot of problems with this property. Okay. With that said, and I just threw that out there, go ahead and finish your presentation, and then we'll move on from there.
Well, that's basically it. I just had an outline of what has taken place.
Right.
Because I don't know what the next step would be based on what I've been told. Now, obviously, I'm not sure that Tim had sent out a crew. And he said they weren't completely sure where the line is, but there is some markings in my backyard now, and I assume that's where they identified the sewer line. So, if 30 days and we can look at it differently, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, anything else you want to tell us?
No, sir.
All right, for the purpose of the record, is there anybody here in opposition to V86? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Ms. Swanson represents the district. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Swanson.
Mr. Leach, you can have a seat, please. I want to call Tim Davidson up, please.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, you can take a seat.
Okay.
I'm calling up Mr. Davidson, please.
Yeah, Tim Davidson, Cobb County Water System.
Yes, can you explain, when you went out there and you had the conversation with Mr. Leach, what you had found and where the house location, oh, you drew it on a map, that's really nice. Can you describe what it is that we're looking at?
Right, I had highlighted the, what I highlighted in green is the sanitary sewer easement that was done via plat when the subdivision was platted. The rules are you're not allowed to have permanent structures in the easement, so there's already some problems out there now, because as it's shown, the house is actually into the easement a couple feet. There are a couple walls across the back, in the retaining walls in the back. Is this working? Okay. They're a problem. So we went out there, and in addition to that, in addition to not allowing permanent structures in the easement, there's a setback requirement in the code that permanent structures are not allowed to be right up against the easement. On the side of a property, they've got to be 2 feet away, and in the rear, 10 feet away. So because we saw these obvious issues on the application, we sent a crew out there, and it turns out, as Mr. Leach stated, the sewer line is not in the center of the easement. It's usually in the center or very close to it. And there's actually oh, there's a better one. Oh, here we go. Where am I at? There's a manhole here out in the street, and then we found a manhole right near this wall. Oh, wow. So the actual sewer is at the edge of the easement here and very close to the wall of the house. And then it turns and goes back to the cul-de-sac up here. And the only way our crews could really figure that out was they basically tried to pull a string from one manhole to the other through the woods and so forth. And that's when they marked his backyard roughly where the line is. Here's the problem he may be running into. Assuming this is approved and moves on to building permit, if the sewer line is actually in that platted easement, we're going to hold hold him to the 10-foot setback. So he wouldn't be allowed to put any structures within 10 feet of that easement. The concern is if the sewer is outside of that easement, technically we don't have any way to get to that sewer. It's not in an easement. So we would require an easement to be granted for where the sewer is. And if it were indeed here, closer to where he wants to build, that would be a 10-foot easement away from the pipe, because it's 10 feet to the other side, 20-foot easement. So there'd be a 10-foot easement plus a 10-foot setback. So not knowing exactly where the sewer is now relative to the platted easement, I'm not sure what to tell the applicant. But if it moved on to building permit, we would require him to hire a surveyor to definitely find out where that line is, because I don't know how accurate our crews were in pulling a string through the woods.
So, Mr. Davidson, can you explain again, if the sewer line is what we're assuming is going down the side of the green, it's going down the side of their house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not in what we even say is the easement in the middle of this green. It's to the side of the house.
Right.
He would then be required to have a.
Oh, to address that existing issue?
So let's say that it is determined that the sewer line is going down the side of his house and it's going across his yard. Where would, from your setback standpoint, where would that setback be in regards to what he's proposing to build?
Well, again, if the sewer line is actually inside the easement, he would be held to a 10-foot setback.
And that 10-foot setback would
the edge
then
of the
go how
easement.
far into his
Patio.
proposed?
I really can't tell a dimension here. He would just be held from. He would have to have this surveyed. So out on site, it would be marked where the easement is, because it's not obvious from manholes and seeing where the actual line is. So he'd have to have a surveyor mark the edge of the easement, and then he wouldn't be able to build within 10 feet of that.
10 feet of that.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, and then in addition, he has walls, landscape walls in the back.
Right.
And to code, is that allowable?
No.
So
Again,
he
for-
would have to remove the landscape walls.
Well, retaining walls are considered a permanent structure, so the options are remove the permanent structures, meaning the walls in the house, or move the sewer, or what will most likely be allowed here is a hold harmless agreement, basically the property owner signing an agreement saying he's doing something that is not allowed. So the county would not be held responsible if we get in here to maintain the line within the easement and it damages something that's not supposed to be there, the county's not responsible.
So there would be a hold
That's a layman's
harmless.
interpretation of a hold harmless.
Okay, there would be a hold harmless, not only on the landscape walls, but if he can build the structure, because he can come off 10 feet from that, as well as, would be a hold harmless on the house?
Well, the house is inside the easement, so that's a
So it'd be on
violation.
that
So that
as
would be
well.
included in the hold harmless. No, and let me be clear, that would be a hold harmless agreement for the existing structures. As far as anything new, we're going to hold it to the code requirements.
To the code requirements, okay.
Which is the 10-foot setback in the rear.
Thank you so much. Mr. Pearson. Peterson, I called you Pearson. Could you, it's my understanding that we're going into the sewer and water easement. And it's my understanding, and if you, Mr. Atkins, if you can address it as well, it's my understanding that we as the BZA, that we're not authorized to grant variances when a person is asking for a proposed addition or a proposed structure that's going into stormwater and sewer easements and setbacks. Is that true, or can you clarify that, or?
That is correct, Commissioner Swanson. The Board of Zoning Appeals is only authorized to give variances on certain chapters of the Cobb County Code, and the easements for water and sewer are not in the chapters that you can vary. So those could only be varied by certain department agency heads or the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Zoning Appeals cannot alter these easements and cannot give setback variances to these easements.
Okay. Then given this, do you have any, I'm
Just-
sorry, would you have questions to Mr.?
And just a point of order, I guess. Since we just found out about this, plainly this sewer and this is not part of the case in front of us.
The sewer is not a part of the case, Commissioner Hovey, but it does impact the applicant's request, and from what I'm seeing, there's almost no way the applicant can do what they want to do with the sewer line where it is.
Okay, I just making sure, but we're not talking about proposing anything for that side of the house, recognizing that it's an issue, but he could literally clip off the corner of his proposed construction 10 feet away from this easement.
Well, in addition to that, Mr. Davidson's also saying it's going to be 10 feet off that also, for an additional setback. So it's going to be 20 feet off the center line.
Sounds to me like we need to go back to the drawing board.
All right, Ms. Swanson, go ahead.
Because of the requirements that he would need basically 20 feet off from the sewer line, that pretty much cuts drastically into his proposed addition. And his proposed addition is what the applicant is asking for. Variance 1 is to waive the rear setback from the required 10 feet to 5 feet for this proposed addition. And clearly, wherever this sewer line, as it's coming through, as Mr. Davidson was showing, 20 feet coming off, if you move it, well, it's not up there anymore, but if you move it from the far side to what they're saying, because of where the lines are connected to the top of the street and to the bottom, the sewer line is probably closer to the side. I feel that that's going to take a good portion of the addition, which is going to be a very small. And since we're not allowed as a board to authorize any setback reductions from easements, I really feel at this point we have no, we are not allowed really to continue on the variance. So at this point, I am ready to make my motion. If anybody has any questions to anybody.
Go right ahead, make
Yes,
your
Mr.
motion.
Peterson.
I do have one comment, Commissioner Swanson. It sounds like the variance is going to be denied in some fashion. Would it be okay for the board to just deny number one and approve number two? Because number two is still there, regardless of what whether he builds the addition or not.
So I break this down into two
Yeah,
to allow
be
an
deny
increase.
one and approve number two.
Well, approve number two is I can just give what is an existing, which
Yes.
is about 55.5%.
Okay.
So allow him to have 55.5%, which is an existing condition?
Yes.
Okay. So
Make a motion.
I'd make a motion that we deny V86 variance request number 1 to waive the rear setback from the required 10 feet to 5 feet, and that that is more of a cleanup variance on number 2, that we increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 35% to 55% for all of his existing surfaces that he currently has.
For what is existing.
For what is existing.
Yeah, that was
And
covered.
include all staff comments.
All staff comments in there.
All staff comments are included.
All right, I've got a motion, got a second by Ms. Williams. Any other discussion on this? Mr. Hovey?
I find it hard to even support the 20% for the existing, but we'll go ahead and follow the commissioner here.
Okay. Motion, second, comments made. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries for approval on 2 and denial on 1, and the motion is 4-1. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back from our break. This is the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, and this is our regular monthly meeting. Mr. Peterson, what's our next case, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Variance case V101, PNC Bank, request a variance to allow an accessory structure, a proposed ATM machine to be located in front of the principal building in land lots 595, 629, and 630 of the 16th District. The property is located on the south side of East Piedmont Road, east of Sandy Plains Road. There's one person here in opposition. Is the applicant present? The director show the applicant's present. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
All right, sir, if you would, for the purpose of the record, give us your name and tell us what you want.
My name is Bobby Falk. I am with PNC Bank, and we are interested in installing, I guess what I would refer to as a drive-up ATM at this, and I just want to make sure we've got a couple of them on here. We had 100 and 101. This is at which, Mr. Peterson, which? This is 2550 Sandy Plains Road. Is that Sprayberry? Yes. Okay, at Sprayberry Shopping Center, yes.
Case V101. Okay, tell us a little bit about it, why you want to put it there, and that sort of stuff.
I guess 2.5 years ago, PNC acquired RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, their U.S. banking locations in the United States. They still have wealth management present here, but they no longer do retail banking here. We acquired their banking presence that gave us a footprint in here in the southeast and Atlanta market. We're very interested in being here and growing our presence, and this is a strategy on our part to fill in some voids in our marketplaces where we don't currently have branch locations. We'd like to service our clients in those areas and make our presence known with via the drive-up ATM.
And where's the location, and is it's going to be lighted? Give us a little more.
Okay, yeah, this is at Sprayberry. I'll make sure. I don't know if I have the. I think the one you got the other one, Jeff? Sorry, I brought the. I was based on the number. Let me get the other site plan.
So instead of paying 6% on a loan, you're going to give it to be a 3.5% now.
I did not say that for the record.
Okay.
But what we've got, and Jeff's going to bring the rest of it up here, but there are, and this is a common thing for the drive-up ATMs at the end of a row of parking places. We would take a couple parking places there and put our ATM with, with associated lighting. I don't have it off the top of my head. We do so many foot candles per 50 foot, and we put, usually those are 2 pole lights with 2 heads on each of the pole lights there that are mounted at about 15 feet high to light up our structure. This is basically we set the ATM itself on a concrete island, and then we have another separate structure that is sort of just a canopy that goes over and covers. It also has some lighting there with it as well.
All right, tell us what we're looking at here now.
This is the shopping center, and what we're interested is going in. I don't know if I had to point on that. This is the area here that we're interested in having our ATM at. Make sure I'm moving my pencil right. That squared out area there.
Okay.
Currently asphalt. No landscaping. pervious versus impervious type of ratios. Parking is not an issue here as far as the amount of spaces. I think we'd probably take maybe 3 or 4 spaces there at the end of that row of parking spaces, so we've not, met any, again, the parking ratio that's required for the shopping center.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us, Mr. Pope?
I really don't believe so. Is there any more questions?
No, we haven't come to that part yet. If there's nothing else to tell us, if you just have a seat, we'll hear from the opposition now. All right, sir, if you would, just give us your name.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Gary Paytow. I live at 2101 BT Shepherd Drive, just a short distance from this site. My request to you is to deny this request. The main reason for that is there is no hardship here. As part of the application process, as others have mentioned before, there needs to be a show of hardship, and there really isn't. And I submit to you that in this strip development, there are some 6 retail storefronts, that are empty. And there's no reason why this ATM cannot be incorporated into the existing structure that's there presently. The ATM, the way he described it aesthetically, is just going to be a large billboard sitting out along East Piedmont Road. And I just don't think from an aesthetic standpoint that's appropriate. I would ask, as the board has done in the past, for similar kinds of requests to deny this petition. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, anybody else wishing to speak either in opposition to case V101? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Again, this is District 3, so I'm going to ask Mr. Poteet to lead the discussion. David?
Okay, I live near this, fairly near this also, and also go to the LA Fitness there about once a month. But all the, I appreciate Mr. Pato's comments, and I would argue that there is a hardship as far as this goes, and that is that the shopping center is in a hole there. And the second thing I would say is that if we always put the ATMs in shopping centers that are half empty, we would never have an ATM or a quarter empty. Because we've done that, we did that absolutely on another one today, as for that matter. So my respectful disagreement is that I do believe there is a hardship here. And while and I'm sorry I didn't write the name, because the representative, could you come back up one moment? I apologize. I've started to write your name and.
Mr. Polk.
Polk. Mr. Polk, I apologize.
Bobby Folk, if you will, Kay.
Folk. Could you tell me the dimension? I believe the signs is 18 feet from the bottom of that.
Well, actually, it's we were just looking at that. This is roughly about a 11-foot tall structure.
So it's only 11 feet?
Yes, sir. We have another model, but yeah, it says 11 foot.
Okay, and how, the sign is how wide?
Do you have that, Jeff? I didn't. 14 feet? Well, yeah, but just the sign piece of it. It's on there. Take a look. About 3 feet of just the sign portion.
Okay.
And one other thing that that I failed, and I just didn't know exactly what, and I know it's not rebuttal, but from a safety standpoint, the drive-up ATMs are safe. You drive up, you pull up, you use the ATM versus getting out of your vehicle and walking up to. That is, it's just a safer way to do business.
Okay, thank you. And I do agree with that. We sometimes agree and disagree, but I also think if we're half empty there, this could help draw attention to that center, which does need some, it's in that time period where the Kroger used to be there and it was thriving. Now it's kind of going down, and the LA Fitness has brought it back some. So the more attention we can bring to that certain center legally, I think the better. So with that said,
All right, any other comments, questions from board members? All right, it's back to you, David.
I will make a motion, we approve V101 as is, according to the plans,
Okay, based on all staff comments.
based on all staff comments.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second to the motion? All right, motion dies. It's back to the board for discussion. Any other comments? Mr. Hovey?
I guess somebody's got to move this thing along. I'm uncomfortable with the sign.
Okay.
I think the gentleman who came up and made the point about nothing but a billboard along the side of the road's got a point. A lot of these we've approved along the way, lots of them. But this is the kind of got like a tall deal sticking up on top of it, and you know how popular those trucks are with me that sit out in front advertising gold for sale. So I think if we drop that sign down, I'd be more happy.
Ms. Williams?
The sign issues, I totally agree about the signage would be the holdup. I had not the ATM. I think that it serves a need and people like the ATMs, but there has to be either a hold for 30 days while we work out where that sign could go or how large the sign could go. Maybe one route we could take, or the other one would be, to reduce it down. But I think I'd be comfortable with a hold to find out how we could get the sign so it doesn't look like a billboard.
Okay, well, go ahead, Kim.
On the variance that was in my district that we approved, their ATM is different, and it's actually very nice in that it does identify that it is a PNC bank, but the signage is not going up. It's within the body of the ATM. So I would be happier looking at that, the one that they included as pictures on V100
100,
than
yeah.
the one that they have where the signage is sticking up as a, which I agree with you, is it looks like a billboard.
Okay, here's some.
Could we just?
Do you have that plan there? Could you bring it up? Because I'm deferring to their long experience here, which I agree and respect.
100's a PNC project. We could just stipulate it to that one.
To that plan.
Well, that's what I want to make sure y'all would like to do first. so.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I need to get that where they can see it.
Murray.
Yeah.
I can make a new motion. Since his died, I can make a new motion.
All right, show me what I'm looking at now, guys.
Okay, what
Is
you're
this-
looking at is, okay, you got something better?
There are two of them. This is the one that.
Okay, well, we can go with the, and maybe, let me ask, Commissioner Swanson, is this what you have seen?
Yes, this is the one that was in my district as V100 that was on the consent agenda because we felt that it fit well into the shopping center, which is quite different than the one that you're showing us as V101.
Yeah, and this is the other version, the version that I showed you first and that you had.
Right.
We're willing to go with that. That's
Okay.
somewhat in our standard, and may fit better within your signage requirements.
Okay, so you're saying that you can substitute the one for 101 for this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Then, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to make a motion.
Substitute motion, go right ahead.
Substitute motion
Okay.
that we approve application V101 with the stipulation of the signage and the ATM to look like the. what was it?
100.
V100.
Reference of 100. With the reference of 100.
John, will
Okay.
that cover it?
All right, I've got a motion. I have a second by Mr. Potteet. Any other comments? Not hearing
I,
any.
I would like to thank Mr. Patay. I respect what you were saying. I was trying to get it out front, but the sign is well taken, and thank you.
All right, motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries for approval with those comments and that second motion 5-0. John, let's move on to our next one.
Yes, sir. Variance case V103, Martin Thomas, request a variance to allow an accessory structure, a proposed 480 square foot carport to the front of the principal building in land lot 222 of the 20th District. The property is located on the east side of Altoona Lane, south of Creekwood Circle. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V103?
Is there anybody in opposition to case B103?
Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Okay, nobody opposed. Let's swear everybody in.
Oh, yeah.
All right, for the purpose of the record, give me your name, please, first, ma'am.
My name is Sherry Thomas.
And, sir, give me your name.
My name is Martin Thomas.
Okay, tell us what you'd like.
Okay, we're here because we have a carport that we didn't request a variance on. Well, the reason we didn't request the variance is when I asked the builder, he said we would only need permits if it was attached to our house. But anyway, I do have some photos if you would like to see what it looks like where it's located. I don't take good pictures, so I'm sorry. Whoa. Maybe they're way too big. Oh, you make
All right,
it
ma'am,
better.
tell us what we're looking at now here.
Okay, now this is my house, that's our driveway. Our driveway is on the left side of the house. Right behind those trees to your right.
I tell you
is-
what, we're going to give you a pointer and a microphone, and you could point that out to us.
Okay. Oh, that's this picture. Wait a minute, I put my glasses on. Right here is where our building is.
Okay,
The next picture is actually showing from the street where we live. If you're coming down the street right here, can you see that? It's actually kind of highlighted. That's where the building is. Or the carport, sorry. It's right here. And this is for just the purpose of the people saying they don't like the way it looks like. Oh, sorry. And the building is, now I can't see it. Oh, it's right there. Am I using the wrong end of the pointer? And here's the carport itself.
okay, we can see it now.
Yeah, sorry. And this is when you're like almost, this is our neighbor's house. So then it's right there. This is after I'm up the driveway. It's right here. I'm just showing that we have a wooded area here. Our neighbor is right in that area. We have woods also in front of the street. This is what it looks like when we're up in the driveway. We have a car here, a car in our garage, and 2 cars there. And that might be all. And I just wanted to tell you that the reason we have the carport is we have lots of trees in our yard, and we don't like the sap and everything getting on the cars in the wintertime. I don't want to get rid of my trees, but some of the limbs break, and I don't want it to damage the car. I think we had one that fell in our truck.
Okay,
I don't have anything else.
that's it. Mr. Martin, do you have anything to tell us?
Well, basically, just to reinforce what you said, the main reason is, to protect our vehicles. Tree sap, the fallen tree limbs, all that stuff, and in the wintertime, of course, it reduces the frost on the windshields. Don't have to worry about that anymore. That's all, just to protect our vehicles. That was the main purpose of it. And it is already on top of our normal parking area.
All right, during the application process, were you asked to get neighbors' signatures? Have you gotten any signatures from your neighbors?
Yes, we did, and we turned those in.
Okay, we have them on file, Mr. Peterson. Do we know where they are? Are they next door? John, do you know?
That I'm not
Two
sure.
next door.
That I'm not sure about, Mr. Chairman, but the applicant can probably tell you where they are.
Okay, can you tell us where your signatures are?
The two houses on the side of us,
Uh-huh.
they both signed. There's a house that touches the backyard, it's signed, and the other one that touches like 3 feet. We sent a letter to her because we could never get a hold of her. She said she wanted to come look at it first, and she never got back to us, so we sent her a letter.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
No.
Okay. At this point, I'll declare your part over and ask if there's anybody here in opposition to case V-103. Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Mr. Hovey represents District 1, so Mr. Hovey, if you would lead us in the discussion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, folks. Y'all could have a seat if you'd like.
Thank you.
I've received at least 14 emails in opposition to this, from most of them with addresses on this same street, Allatoona Lane. And attached to one of those emails was this photograph, which is we were looking at photographs of the structure. It's about a 3-car garage. And you see it's in front of the house, which is the variance, of course. But it's not only in front and to the side, but it's to front and in front of the house. As you stand straight out, it doesn't cover the whole front of the house, but it certainly does change the aspect and the view of the house. In this case, going back to the hardship issue again, the hardships that were listed on the application that the applicant just reported again are falling tree limbs and sap, which could damage the vehicle, and we all understand that. And the potential for vandalism was listed on the application as a hardship. But those hardships are not things that are imposed by the county zoning code. And the purpose of this board is to remedy hardships that are imposed by an arbitrary use of the county zoning code. I grant that it's nice to have cover for your car, but this hardship doesn't tie out to what our purpose in life is up here. Second, this lot and the way it sits on the street is entirely normal. The other lots have different contours and so on, but there's nothing about the house or the property. It's a lovely property. It is a great-looking street. Everything's in good order. So there's really, just even as I looked at it and looked to see if I saw some hardship imposed land-wise, I don't. It's a great property. So I'm sitting here looking at a hardship that's not supported by the reason that we're here to be. Very significant neighbor opposition, despite the ones that were apparently signed and presented. And there's just nothing like this in the whole neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is a neighborhood of upscale homes, very nice, and this is, while it's very efficient, it's just not in keeping with the way that the rest of the neighborhood is laid out. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you for further comments.
All right, we're open for discussion. Any other board members want to make any comments? We see this a lot where a builder goes out and tells people they don't need permits, where in actuality they do need permits anytime you put up these metal structures. So we have seen this happen over and over and over again, and the county has made an effort to let those builders know they can't just come in and do this arbitrarily. So it is a common occurrence. Okay, Mr. Hovey, it's back to you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we deny case number V103 and that we ask code enforcement to put off enforcing this decision for 60 days to allow ample time for the folks to figure out what they're going to do, and maybe they can sell this building to someone else that could use it. So that'd be my motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Swanson. Any other discussion? Not hearing any. I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Madam Secretary, we're going to deny V103 with a board vote of 5-0. All right, Mr. Peterson, our next case.
Variance case V105, Jones Sign LLC, request a variance to increase the allowable message portion permitted for an electronic sign from 377.5 square feet per variance V101 of 2012 to approximately 1,041.8 square feet, to increase the height permitted for a freestanding sign located within 660 feet of an interstate from 80 feet per variance V162 of 1995 to 90 feet. Continue to allow a pole-mounted sign within 660 feet of I-285, an interstate highway, and to increase the copy display area for all freestanding signs from 1,540.14 square feet per variance V101 of 2012 to 1,799.72 square feet in land lots 880, 881, 882, 912, 913, 914, 948, and 949 of the 17th District. The property is bounded by Cobb Parkway, Acres Mill Road, Cumberland Boulevard, and Interstate 285. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V105? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
All right, sir, again. If you would, give us your name and we'll get started.
My name is Jonathan Page. I'm here with Dana Norman and Tom Velasca. We represent Jones Sign LLC, Cumberland Mall LLC, and General Growth Properties. Specifically in application V105, Cumberland Mall LLC has sought a variance in order to replace an existing 70-foot by 28-foot freestanding pylon sign and put in its place in the exact same location a 90-foot by 40-foot digital LED display and face-lit illuminated style sign. Specifically, the variances that we're requesting, what we're requesting a variance on is the allowable message portion of the sign. The board had approved 377.5 square feet electronic sign in 2012. I've got that here for the board as well if they would like to look at that. Our request is for 1,041 square feet. We're also looking for a variance on the height. In 1995, this board approved a height of 80 feet. We're looking for an increase of 10 feet to 90 feet. We're also looking to have the board continue to approve a pole-mounted sign, which has been previously approved. With regards to the copy and display area, in 2012, the board approved 1,540 square feet for all the freestanding signs on that premises, and our request is for 1,799 square feet. With regards to the hardship, what we're looking to do is increase the visibility of this sign from I-285. We're looking to become consistent. As this board knows, Cumberland Mall, the Cobb Energy Performing Arts Center has an LED style sign that is seen from I-75. Cobb Gallery has an LED sign that is seen from I-285. The Brave Stadium, of course, is coming to town, and they're going to have, from what I understand, they're going to have some digital signs as well for, I believe, it's the signs that will be going up in that area. So we believe this increases the visibility from the on-ramp and off-ramp grade separation on I-285. It makes it easier to see. It's more consistent with the type of signs that are going to be installed and erected in that area. So it allows Cumberland Mall to stay consistent with that. It allows it to contribute to the future modernization that we believe Cobb County is promoting by having these various signs, allowing these various signs to be erected. It also supports the county's modernization plans. Again, with the Brave Stadium and the erection of the Cobb Performing Arts Center, there's going to be larger and newer marquee-style signs in the area. If you look at Cobb Galleria, for instance, they have a similar regional impact as Cumberland Mall. They both have retail stores. Cumberland Mall has retail stores. So this would be consistent with the type of signage that Cobb Galleria is using, which is going after the exact same type of customers who are frequenting these types of malls and retail outlets in order to purchase products. And tying into this also increases the economic impact of the area. Again, it reaches more travelers off of I-285, just in the same way that the Cobb Galleria and the Cobb Performing Arts Center signs do. The proposed sign will, by doing this, will increase the economic impact that the mall can have in the county, which supports the mall. If we look back at 2012, and I'll go ahead and put this up for display. Again, what is existing now is just a freestanding pylon sign. In 2012, the board approved a 377 square foot LED sign to be put underneath that freestanding sign. Jones Sign went and did some mock-ups. They put some kind of temporary billboards up. They had folks out and looking at what kind of visibility, and they realized with this particular type of sign that the visibility wasn't there. And so they went back to the drawing board. They came up with a new design, which is what we're seeking a variance for, and that captured and it allowed them to get the visibility and stay consistent with the other signs in the area. So that's why we're back here in 2014 seeking this variance. And as a final note, back in 2012, one of the requests that the county had was that the county be able to use the LED style sign for things such as Amber Alerts, emergencies, those sorts of things. Cumberland Mall wants to allow that with this sign. They want to offer that if the county has a use for it with regards to Amber Alerts and emergencies and those sort of things. In its current condition, being just a freestanding pylon sign, it can't do those sorts of things. By having this LED display there, it can help and contribute to the county in its efforts to warn citizens and to alert citizens of important emergencies. So that is also something that we put in our variance application we feel strongly about, and we hope the county will be able to use the sign if they approve the variance application today. Those are my comments, and we have Mimi Olson here. She is with the sign company. She is available for questions. She can answer very particulars about the sign, so if you want to hear from a representative of the sign company, she is here on behalf of the sign company. She is a principal there. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and we hope that you approve this variance.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, for the purpose of the record, is there anybody here in opposition to V105? Hearing and seeing no one, it's back to this board for discussion. Again, Ms. Swanson represents this district, so Ms. Swanson, lead us into discussion, please.
This application was heard in front of this board in December 2012, and then it was put on hold by the company to be moved to being heard on 2013. When I look at side by side the two applications that were coming forward to us, I was looking at what the hardships were, and basically it's the same type of hardship. They're pretty much word for word as far as the hardship. And also in 2013, when we heard it, in January 2013, when we heard it, they used the examples of the Cobb Energy, Cobb Galleria, that their signs were in existence and that this would be an improvement. So at that point, we granted the variance because it felt that the Cumberland Mall was doing a very nice job in cleaning up and modernizing their signs, which was greatly needed at the time. Now they're coming back to us. They still have the same hardship. When you look at the size, shape, and topography, I'm not going to go into any further explanation on the other signs that are currently in existence because they were in existence in 2013. So what they're basically asking for now is to increase the message portion of the sign, which was at 32 square feet, to now when they came to us in 2013, we allowed them and granted them a message board of 377.5 square feet. And now they want to increase that message portion of the board and then to flip it to place it on top to now 1,041.08 square feet. They also want to increase the height of the sign and within 660 feet of the interstate, and it was at 35 feet. We approved it at 54.5 feet because it was felt that this would be sufficient and to see it from the street and from the freeway. And now they're requesting from 54.5 feet to 90 feet. And then this will also increase the copy area for all the signs. It started out at 968.25 to 1,540.14 square feet, and now they're asking to be increased to 1,799.72 square feet. So this is the situation. I did a lot of research into this variance, really looking what is the charge of our board is to look at the hardships, and I feel very confident that in 2013, well, actually in December 2012, I went out with representatives from Cumberland Mall and the representative on the case who was from the Blaska Law Firm. No, not Blaska Law. Yeah, Blaska Law Firm. And really drove the 285 to see the visibility, what they were requesting, brought it back to the board in 2013, and I think that at that point we made a motion to approve it. So now they're coming forward and saying that it needs to be higher, that the sign needs to be flipped, that it needs to be modernized, which is basically what we addressed in the 2013 case. So, Mr. Chairman, I bring it back to you for any other further comments.
Okay, it's back to this board. Any other comments on that? If I remember correctly, Cumberland Mall injected a whole bunch of money in that mall a number of years ago, put new restaurants in, and we were all excited about that. They spent I believe Mr. Sams at that time represented them on that. And it's been very successful. All the restaurants have done very well, and we were excited for them, and I think that's precipitated what's taken place in the past. I'm not sure a whole lot has changed since then. That's just one comment. Anybody else? Mr. Hovey?
I'd like to address this business about keeping up with the Braves and consistent with future Braves signs. For us to sit here now and try and come up with some vision of how this is going to be consistent with future Braves signs that don't exist yet is speculative. We don't know. And the Board of Commissioners granted to the Braves the ability to approve their own signs. The Board of Commissioners doesn't even have the authority to approve the Braves signs anymore. And so we're not going to know until they get up. My impression is that some of this might be legitimate and would be justified if the Braves signs were there to compare it to. But I don't think we know yet. I think that we can make I wish we could just hold this case for 2 years. It may have value, but I don't think that the case is proven now. I think what we did last year, based on the information we had last year, was everything they asked for. We didn't hold back anything. And I was happy to support it, and I was glad to see it go and get modernized. It was time. Nothing's really changed, which is the point the commissioners made over here. And I would like to stick a needle in this thing of being consistent with what somebody thinks the Braves might be 2 years from now. Well, otherwise, we're going to end up in a sign race out here with everybody trying to put up a bigger sign and a bigger sign. It's going to look like Las Vegas. Everybody trying to put a bigger sign up before the Braves even get their A in the air. And so I would say to the applicant, y'all come back in 18 months after we see what the Braves stick up there. And we love you and we want to support you, but to start a speculative sign race, I think is a problem.
Any other comments? Not hearing, seeing. Kim, it's back to you.
Okay, I just want to reiterate again is that it isn't under this board's guidance that we look at how big other signs are in the area. We look at the shape, size, and topography. We look at, can this sign be seen sufficiently going down the 285, which is the concern that it isn't large enough, it isn't big enough. If it isn't large enough, it isn't big enough, this sign is sufficient. I think that it's what was proposed to us in January 2013 was a very nice modernization of Cumberland Mall. It fits in with all of the signage that we approved in the last variance, and I would like to continue to see that. I'd like for it to be built, and I would like for the reader board to be up. I think the reader board is sufficient in what is going to be presented and what you're going to be selling. I don't think we need to have anything that is greater than that. I don't think it needs to be on the top to distract drivers down the road. And I think that anybody going down the 285 will see the lovely Cumberland Mall emblem that goes across saying it's the Cumberland Mall, as well as then if they want to read anything that you have scrolling under the billboard. So with that, I make a motion. I'm sorry. I had to clarify one thing. Mr. Atkins, in the previous variance that we had in January 2013, they agreed to allow Cobb County to use the reader board on 285 for emergency messages. That was under the variance, and that was one of the stipulations. So will that continue under this variance, or does that go away? Because they have also included it as asking for a stipulation for that as well.
As I understand what you're asking me, if you were to deny this application, do the previous stipulations apply? Yes,
Right,
they do.
that's right.
Nothing would change on that.
So those stipulations would apply?
Still be in place.
Because that was a great concern of mine, and it was very nice that the Cumberland Mall allowed for that. It was very important to us, and we appreciated them doing that. So with that, I make a motion that that we deny V105.
Okay, I've got a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion from board members? Hearing and not seeing any, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Madam Secretary, we're going to deny 105 with a vote of 5-0. Mr. Peterson, my next case.
Yes, sir. Variance case V109, Lorraine Carter requested variance to waive the side setback from required 12 feet to 7.6 feet adjacent to the southern property line and to 5.2 feet adjacent to the northern property line. And waive the side setback for an accessory structure under 144 square feet for a 64 square foot frame playhouse from required 5 feet to 2 feet in land lot 1076 of the 17th district. The property is located on the south side of Lamp Ladder Lane, east of Horseshoe Circle. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V109? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would all those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
All right, ma'am, you've been here all day waiting for this, haven't you?
Yes, sir. I'm Lorraine Carter, and I had a variance request for an encroachment on setback from the property line.
Tell us what you want, Ms. Carter.
Just wanted to have the encroachment from the property line setback variance approved at the located property.
Tell us a little more. Why do you want it? How to get there? What's
Well,
going on?
to tell you a little more, I've had this property since 1978. I was awarded it in a divorce in 2007. Since moved to Orlando, Florida, and have been renting the house. The house has sold. At the time I put the application in before the zoning board, I still own the house. And currently, I'm no longer the property, but since I was the applicant for the variance, I came up from Orlando to have this heard.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Peddle, who is now the owner of the property, is in the back.
Okay.
So he might want to be coming up forward, since he's the owner, to talk about that with the variance as well.
Okay, I'll allow that. Come on up, let me get you sworn in. Ms.
At
Card.
the time I owned this property, my ex-husband built a garage that encroached on the setbacks. At the time, I have to tell you, I work in healthcare, I don't know anything about architecture. I was leaving all this to him.
Okay.
And when Mr. Peddle bought the property, he had it surveyed and,
That's when he discovered it.
yes, sir.
All right, how about the Playhouse? Did you have anything with the Playhouse too?
The Playhouse it's more of a building that's 12 feet by 8 feet that the ex-husband kept some of his equipment in.
Okay.
It was never really used as a playhouse. It was more of a little place for him to keep his stuff.
Okay. All right, let's bring this gentleman in, and, sir, if you would, tell us your name, please.
Sure, Eric Peddle.
All right, Eric, can you shed any light on this whole thing?
Yeah, I did request when we were under contract that she get the variance, just so that any paperwork that might come up, if at the time I go to sell the house, this doesn't come up again.
That's important. That's why you're here, and that's
Yeah.
why we're here, to help on those things.
Yeah.
All right, anything else you can tell us, Ms. Carter, or anything else you want to tell us about the encroachment or anything else that's, you're blaming it all on your husband, I know that, so
Well, unfortunately, he was the one who did all this building, and
that was all done, how many years ago?
it was
Just-
done back in 2004.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, okay. Anything else?
I can say that in communication after this application was submitted, that my son lives in Marietta, Georgia, and he was representing me since I live in Orlando, Florida. And he received a phone call from Ms. Swanson saying that there was a water drainage pipe that went down the right side of the yard that was under the patio and under the right side of the garage corner, and wanted that identified. And I tried to explain to her that pipe was put in by the county before the property was ever bought, when Pulte made the subdivision back in, I guess, the early 1970s.
Okay.
And I didn't have any location of where this pipe was.
Okay, now, are you aware of the pipe?
I am, yes.
Okay,
The only thing I would add is, since I bought it, I tore down the playhouse, the shed that's in the back, so those aren't really an issue anymore.
not an issue. Okay, great. That sheds light on it.
As well as also the, I guess, the right side of the house. I cut it in half, so there's no longer a variance needed on that side.
Okay, Mr. Peterson, you follow what this gentleman's saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, let me turn it over to Ms. Swanson. Ms. Swanson solves all problems in the world. So, Ms. Swanson, we're going to turn it over to you.
So Mr. Peddle, Mr. Peddle, can you tell me what you did? You removed, can you put up the
Site plan.
site plan that's in our book, please?
Nice to meet you guys.
I didn't think you'd make it.
Oh, no, I was coming. I told you I'd do that.
Yeah.
I think this is the site plan they want.
Can you point and show what you have done, please?
Sure. So this playhouse no longer exists. That shed no longer exists, and this addition here is now 15 feet from the setback. I cut the room in half. Don't need it. Just on this side where the storm drain, we weren't sure if it was under the house, near the house, and I think somebody went out there from the county and put a camera down it. That's what I
Okay.
heard.
Okay, thank you. You can both be seated, and Mr. Braden, can you come up, please?
Dave Braden with the Stormwater Management Division.
Hi, can you please go into, can you explain what appears to be what it says on here, the approximate location of the stormwater drain pipe leading down the side of the property. Can you address that, please?
Yes. You can see from the site plan that's on the board there, there is a 20-foot drainage easement that runs down the southern boundary, the southern side of this property. The surveyor also placed what he calls approximate location of a storm line that you see labeled on the site plan there, and that's what brought us concern, is because the pipe actually is shown running into the corner of the house, which would be a problem for us. It is true that that pipe was not put in by the county. It was put in by the developer when the subdivision was built years and years ago. The plat was recorded, the houses were built. The house was built too close to, and within that easement at that point in time. But that is the portion of the house that's existing. It's been there for a long period of time. I was concerned because the survey says approximate. We weren't really sure where this pipe was. So I had our camera crews go out, run a camera up this to see if maybe there was another junction box buried that might bend this pipe, where the surveyor may not have known where it was located. But it appears to me that the surveyor just mislocated the pipe, because our crew went out there, I went out there again after they went out and verified that the pipe does actually run down the drainage easement. It's close to the house, and the house is within the easement, but the pipe is not under the house. So that's a better situation than we had when we started. So we're fine. We would rather the house not be in the easement, but we're just glad it's not over our pipe. So we would be able to get to that pipe if and when we need to maintain it. But we would require that, since the house is located within the easement, that the current owner execute a hold harmless agreement for that. And I'll get with them after the hearing to get that done. So, is that good?
Okay, that's good. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't
Mr.
think so.
Rich?
I think it's pretty clear now.
Okay. I appreciate Mrs. Carter coming from Florida to this case, and I also appreciate Mr. Peddle coming as well, both being applicants, and I know it's been kind of confusing, but I thought it was very important that Mr. Peddle was here, so that this is going to, the variance and all the stipulations are going to be your responsibility, since you are now the owner of the house. So if anybody, well, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to make.
We're ready. I think we're ready for
Y'all
your
ready?
motion. Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
So I make the motion that we approve, well, this sounds really, we approve V109, but we eliminate one, waive the site. So if we're eliminating both, what am I
You
approving?
need half of one.
I need half of one.
You
So
need the
half
first
of
half
one.
of one.
The first half of one, so that was waive the side setbacks from the required 12 feet to 7.6, and then we'll eliminate 2. And then I would like to add these stipulations, that the owner meet with Mr. Braden and sign a hold harmless that would hold the county harmless, of course, if anything happens to the pipe to that side of the foundation, and also the concrete that this possibly could be going under. So we'll have a hold harmless. I also require, in the stipulation, I would require that they revise this survey so that if you indeed sell this house again, that we would have a revised survey that would reflect the exact location of the storm pipe, and that we would also add stipulation number 3 that would show the new addition to the house, or the additions that were put on by Mrs. Carter's ex-husband, to reflect what the house currently as of today looks like, and that, I guess, now would also reflect what Mr. Peddle has removed. So I was asking for a new survey. So those are my stipulations, and that we would also include all staff comments.
Okay, I've got a motion. I have a second. Mr. Peterson, are you okay with that? We have it all down. And Laurie, are you okay? You've got it all down. Okay, good. I've got a motion. I got a second. no other comments, call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're going to approve 109, approval 5-0. Okay, let's go to our last case.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Variance case V82, East Lake Residential LLC. Request a variance to waive the minimum public road frontage from required 75 feet to 41.5 feet for each proposed lots 7 and 8, and to waive the minimum lot width and front setback line from required 75 feet to 65 feet in land lot 911 of the 16th district. The property is located on the north side of Octavia Circle, north of Vesta Drive. The applicant's representative is present, and earlier there were four people here in opposition. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Okay. Mr. Moore, we have held this case for 30 days. We don't really need to start from the beginning. If you would be kind enough to bring us up to date on your part and let us know where we stand now.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Kevin Moore here on behalf of the applicant, East Lake Residential. What's showing on your screen is the two proposed lots on Octavia Circle. And just to remind you, this currently is a single lot of over 60,000 square feet in this R20 neighborhood. This was originally platted in 1959 as two lots, 1 and 2. This is what DOT calls a hairpin curve on Octavia Circle, which does not qualify today as a cul-de-sac curve or a bubble cul-de-sac or even a standard cul-de-sac. And as a result, to put these two lots back in place, it would have to meet the minimum road frontage of 75 feet in width across the front of these lots, as opposed to the cul-de-sac width that would be required if these were cul-de-sacs of only 50 feet. What we've determined is, based on the original plats and where these lot lines are actually platted and where the right-of-way is actually platted, the lot width, the lot frontage is 54.31 feet. Currently, the variance is for to reduce it from 75 feet to just over 41 feet. So this would actually make it less of a variance at this point. One of the things we were working on as well was trying to determine with these. Right now, what's shown here is essentially placeholders for where the proposed homes would be built. This is showing a front setback from the actual property line of 40 feet, which is consistent with the setback in the neighborhood, though it exceeds the R20 requirement of 35 feet. In discussions with the folks, the existing house, which is located about right here, is set back about 76 feet from the property line, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 84 feet from the actual curb here. And what we've discussed with them is putting these houses a minimum of 100 feet from the curb. And the reason why I'm saying from the curb is because everybody knows where that is. Where the right-of-way line is or where the actual property line is, we're used to that, but most folks don't. They know where the curb is, and so that's what we're measuring from, is a minimum of 100 feet back from the curb, which would, in essence, place these two proposed homes further back in the lots than where the existing home even is. And that's what you would normally see in subdivisions that have been built in the last 20 years, where you have cul-de-sac, and the two pie-shaped cul-de-sac lots that we always see as the homes are built deeper into the lots, which is what we would be proposing here. One of the things that they've requested is, and very understandably, is that there be a plat of that shows that building line front setback from the curb measurement of 100 feet, and we're certainly happy to provide that and agree to that. And if necessary, we're certainly happy to agree that it be continued for another month so we can produce that drawing. That's up to y'all. I've discussed that with them, but I wanted to go through that. But we've agreed to put those homes a minimum of 100 feet from the curb, and would ask that to the extent the board approves the variance as requested, which is, remember, is a reduction of the lot frontage for the right-of-way from 75 feet to 54 feet, that be conditioned upon the front setback as measured from the curb, a minimum of 100 feet. And the only reason I'm being so careful in saying it is because we do this, and y'all hear this a lot. We do this for a living, and zoning department does this. And for those that are not, like the folks that we've been discussing, those terms, it sounds like Greek. But the variance is for the frontage of the lot at the right-of-way, conditioned upon the front setback being a minimum of 100 feet measured from the curb. And I hope John Peterson can understand what I'm saying, if I've said that correctly. Good. So that's where we are with it.
Okay, that's clear. Anything else, Kevin? That brings us up to date.
That brings you up to date. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Now we'll hear from the opposition. Again, we have heard the particulars of the case, so just bring us up to date on where we stand now, ma'am. And give us your name, please, first.
My name is Catherine Garces, and I've lived on Octavia Circle since 1987.
Okay.
And what we were concerned about was the fact that this lot was being divided, and we had envisioned the homes that they were proposing, they were going to be right close to the street, because what originally was shown was that it was only a 40-foot setback from the street, if I'm using the terms correctly. So now, in speaking with Kevin, he has agreed to have the setback from the street to be a minimum of 100 feet, and we're okay with that. The one thing that we would like to determine, and I was the one that secured the signatures from all the whole circle, all the neighbors, we are concerned that we want the elevation to be in keeping with the neighborhood as well. So we would ask that the builder meet with the neighbors to give some sort of determination as to what the elevation will be, so that we can feel pleased with the outcome. Everyone in the neighborhood walks that circle. It's a part of our lives, all of our kids, and to have something going up there that looks like condominiums will be something that we really would not like to see. So what we're asking is that this be delayed, because the actual variance was to waive the minimum public road frontage from 75 feet to 41.5 feet. And now we've been told that that's changed. It's 54.31 feet, which is nicer. And then I've been told that the second part of the variance, waiving the minimum lot width at the front setback from 75 to 65 feet, they're saying that they're not going to have that in the variance request. So we're thinking, why not submit a new variance request showing the new plat with those homes set back the 100 feet from the curb, or whatever, I guess, the term is. Would you
All
like
right.
to say something?
All right, anything else, ma'am?
No, I think I
Okay.
covered it.
Well, let's hear for the next person, please.
Good afternoon. I was here last month.
Your name, please.
Oh, sorry. My name is Rory Zimmerman.
Okay.
And I live at 3016 Octavia Circle.
Okay.
I wanted to make clear to you that I'm a resident of Octavia Circle. I was here at the last meeting because my parents were unable to attend, so I could speak for them and the neighborhood with the petition that was signed. And I just wanted to express that, having grown up, learned to ride my bicycle on every curve of Octavia Circle, that many of the original homeowners on the circle, they still live there, or the houses are passed on through generations. And, often we have developers coming in to seek to buy the homes in the circle. And this, the variance request made it seem a bit contentious, as though they were trying to encroach on our homeland there. So I just wanted to let you know that as a resident and having grown up there, that we'll always be attentive to protect the integrity of our neighborhood. And also thank you for this opportunity and to speak with Mr. Moore as well, because he's helped to really make us more knowledgeable on the terminology. So,
All righty.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else wish to speak in opposition to V82? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. I'm going to ask Mr. Poteet to lead us in that. David?
I have something to clarify. Miss Gardner, I hope I'm saying that right? Garson, I'm sorry. Could you come back up one moment? Because I want to make sure I'm understanding a term here. When you speak of elevation, do you mean where the house sits on the property, or how high the house is going to go?
How high the house is.
Okay, I wanted to make sure about that.
Right.
Okay,
Because all the houses are, the majority of them are brick ranch-style homes.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that the elevation is in keeping with the neighborhood, maybe, but in speaking with Kevin, he mentioned that they are a combination of brick and, what is it, hardy plank or what? So, but we want to have the okay of the residents of the circle on whatever elevation they choose.
Okay, and you're good on the setback now, where it's
As
100
long
feet
as-
from the curb?
Right, and when you say setback, are you talking about the house is setback, that's where the beginning of the actual building will start, 100 feet?
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Right,
Okay.
right. That's where the house will actually start.
Right, yes, we're happy with that because I think it will be in keeping with the neighborhood. The majority of them are 80 to 100 feet setback.
Okay. All right,
So,
thank you.
From the road. Thank you.
Mr. Moore, if you could come up a moment.
Yes.
Sorry. You also mentioned, I want to make sure I have this right, waive the minimum public and frontage from the required 75 feet to 54.31 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What about elevations? Do we have that worked out to where they would know what the elevations of the house are?
This is the style of the home, proposed elevations, which you see, very nice front porch, front porch, a mixture, a combination of materials. This is, it's only two houses, so this is representative of what they would want to build. These will most likely would be side entry on these, because you have plenty of width when you move the houses back. So instead of garage doors there, those would be windows and a side entry. And that's brick with cedar shake and some stone, and that's what we would be proposing. I think that what they are discussing is something of more of a ranch-style home, which we can't really do we don't feel like we can do a ranch home here as part of that, but I understand what they're talking about.
Okay, how tall is this one?
It should be 35.
I can't see that, I didn't vote.
It should be no more than 35 feet.
Okay. Okay.
I think it's probably on the side there that I could.
If you can leave that up, and I'm going to call them,
Sure.
two lady back up real quick.
We're kind of getting into a zoning issue rather than a variance issue here.
I'm just trying to make sure we're
Sure.
real quick, if we're all in agreement, we don't have to, I don't want to hold anything. I don't want to. On this,
All right,
I just
pay
need you to
attention.
answer, I need you to answer, we got to get out of here.
Okay.
And I don't mean to rush it, but we're just,
Sure, I understand.
he showed those elevations. Are those elevations good for y'all?
Well, it's not just about us, it's about the circle.
Okay, thank you.
And everybody couldn't be here, you know.
Right, I understand, but nobody can ever be here, and we've got decisions we got to make somehow. And I'd hoped y'all had worked this out this month. That's why we gave the month. I'm not getting on to you about it, but I'd hope to have all the answers here today, because rather than keep extending and extending, we try not to do that. So that's why I'm not trying to be rude to you. I'm just trying to come up with
I understand.
where we need to do something with this case. So
Okay, could I just say one thing?
real quick.
On this plat printout or whatever, what we were looking at is, see where the lots are 75 feet width on that? See, we've marked it as 75 feet in red. We wanted the actual home to be sitting 40 feet back from the 75-foot width. And we are compromising with Kevin about it just being the 100 feet back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm clear.
That's
but-
good. That's all.
For the, for the ranch style, you know, when they built their house in the neighborhood, they made it look as though it's a ranch, but it has 2 levels. So that's what we're asking. Be creative as a developer and make something
Okay.
that fits in with the integrity of the circle.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And what we got to deal with is the variance more than the style of the house and things as a
We
variance board,
understand,
so.
but just want to let you know our concerns.
That's all
as
the comments I have. I'm trying to put together the numbers here. I'll make a motion that we approve V82 with a 100-foot setback from the curb, with the minimum public road frontage required from 75 feet to 54.31 feet. And I'm not sure about part.
You can delete part 2.
We can delete part 2. That's the part we can delete.
Homes to be side entry garage.
Side entry garage, and similar to the style we saw proposed today, unless they work out something amongst themselves different. The builder can do what he wants here.
It's a zoning issue.
I'll second your motion for discussion.
Okay, let's do that.
We don't need to probably leave it that openly tied up a little bit. Subject to this, I'm sorry. Subject to the side entry garage, house to be brick and
Hardy plank.
hardy plank siding
Well, it shakes.
or shakes.
Okay, because we can only get so far into all this without that's
Would that do,
beyond.
would that tie it down, John?
Probably would be better if you added more materials to the front than just brick and shake. It could be stone or stucco or.
Stucco. How
Hard-
about the
hard-
final approval
hard
to be
surface.
approved by you, John,
The zoning division
the
manager?
zoning division manager?
That'll work.
Okay.
We got all that. That's in part of my motion, and that is my motion then.
All right, I got a motion, got a second, Ms. Williams. Mr. Hovey, got a comment?
No, I was going to second.
Okay, you know, this is the same presentation we saw. I just want to point this out for the folks that are here. The pictorial of the house is the same when it was presented last month, so we've had that time and period to look at that. I think we've got a good motion, we've got a good second. No other comments, call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Madam Secretary, that carries for approval with a 5-0 vote.
Thank you.
Mr. Peterson, where am I now?
We have one other business item, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and that concerns our adoption of our calendar for next year.
Make a motion, we approve it as submitted.
As submitted, and second by Mr. Potteet. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's done. I need to approve the minutes from the September the 29th and both minutes from September the 29th. And I need a motion
So
on
moved,
those.
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
And Ms. Williams, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, any opposed? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think that concludes our business for today.
Good job, Murray.
I think we're all well and done. Thank you.
Kim gets